In our channel's intro video, we spoke about how we are getting married at the end of this year. Since we're getting married, we thought what better way to document our journey than with all of you. Today, we are going to give you all the deets from how we met to the proposal and even some bonus content. Hi, I'm Birdie.
And I'm Honeybee. Welcome to our channel, Buzzing Above the Nest. We are thrilled you decided to hang out with us today.
So I actually was going through a rough time when Patrick and I initially met. My dad had passed away, and I wasn't totally sure where my brain or my head was at. So in some ways, it could seem a little daunting to start dating or talking to someone, but it clearly worked out. So I think we're okay with that.
Yes. Do you want to say how we met?
Yeah, so we met on the most craziest way ever that no one ever meets, on Hinge. I that's our meet cute story. We are definitely of our dating app generation.
Yeah.
And for me, I actually liked Patrick first. So, you know, he had to decide if he liked me or not, and for a while there, I don't think I thought it was ever going to happen.
Yeah, so when Erica matched me, I had a few dates lined up prior. And as a guy, if you know, most of the time we have to spend money on dating apps to for it to be any kind of chance. So when Erica liked me, it did go into my pool of likes, and I did see it right away. But I had a few dates pre-lined up that I wanted to see if they were going to lead to anywhere before I liked her back, because I did like her profile right away, but I just don't like talking to multiple people at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just like, okay, if she really likes me, she can wait about a week until I get done with these like few dates. And the dates I had really didn't go anywhere, so I matched Erica and started talking to see if we would end up.
And clearly those dates did not go fantastically, because I'm sitting here and they are not. So I guess, you know, fate decided in my favor, and I'm grateful. I really am. You're the best. We don't have to be too sentimental, but you're the best. I couldn't be best. I couldn't be I could not be any happier except just then. He thinks he's so funny.
People are not gonna understand my humor, but like, dude, that guy is really a narcissist.
Yeah, that's the funny thing is you're probably the furthest from that. Anyways, we're getting off topic.
Yep,
so like I said, my dad had passed away, and it was maybe 5-6 days removed from the time period that he had passed, and I was working with my brothers to figure out funeral arrangements. And that is when I got Patrick's like and a message, and it was really exciting. It was actually kind of a light in the middle of a lot of stress and darkness. So it was really wonderful. I was really happy. I don't even really remember what you said or what we talked about.
I was going to ask you if you remember what I said, because I don't remember what I said.
Yeah, I think some of that stuff gets lost in the sauce after some time. But yeah, the conversation just flowed really easily. And that way I remember it is Patrick was like, can you talk on the phone? Because I was not in the greater Tampa area at the time.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I asked if you wanted to meet up, and you informed me that you weren't.
Right.
Local at the moment.
Since my dad did not live in Florida where I live, I had to, go to the area that he was at. So sorry, my dog is reverse sneezing. You okay, girl? You okay? Okay. I think she's okay.
But yeah, so when she informed me that she wasn't local at the moment, I asked if she wanted to do like a phone date and have like a voice, not a voice, but like a video call.
Yeah. So we did. We had one, and it went really well. We talked for quite some time on a voice call.
Yeah, I think it was about 2 hours.
Yeah, it was really long. And we really dug in really quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which was what I liked. I mean, I liked that. It wasn't like
Yeah.
um, small talk. It was more in depth of like what you
Yeah,
want to be in life
we didn't
and what
come
your
to play.
values are. Yeah.
We I think Patrick and I both we're both in our 30s, and he's approaching mid 30s now, and I'm almost mid 30s. So sorry, whoops.
Yeah, you
Um,
can't tell I'm
but
golden.
um, but yeah, my little honeybee over here,
Mm-hmm.
he he was really just kind of like, this is what I want, this is what I'm looking for. And it was really
Yeah.
refreshing, because I think if any of you have been on dating apps, it's kind of brutal out there. I think people having the choice of not having to stick around because the grass is always greener when they start talking to someone else on the apps, makes it really difficult to have good connections. And it was just like really strong off the bat for both of us. And
Yeah,
we planned to talk the next day.
yeah, and I think to mimic that, when I was going in, I was going in to look for a lifetime partner, not just
Yeah.
short time. I think on my profile I did have like I can't remember exactly all the options, but I
I
think
know.
one was like not committed, but it was like yeah, it was like marriage or like long term dating and marriage. I put marriage
Yeah.
because that's what I was looking for.
And I don't remember what was on my profile. Patrick says mine wasn't very
You
filled
had
out, which
nothing.
I just don't remember that. I remember I had like all the prompts and a bunch of pictures, but apparently I didn't have other, I don't know. I don't really remember, but I don't think it mattered, because by the
Mm-hmm.
time we talked, I was a very open book. I was just like Patrick. I wanted to find my lifelong partner. And for me, that meant getting married, that meant having a family. So we got those conversations out of the way fairly quickly, both understanding that if we were to date, it would be dating to marry, not just dating in
Yeah.
general. Um, and I think it's the best decision I've ever made in my life. I don't know if that is for you too. You knew that that's what you wanted, and it's not that I didn't
Yeah.
know that. I just wasn't sure if it was possible. So you
Mm.
kind of like, when you go in intentionally and you know exactly what you're looking for coming out of it, yeah, you have to be, I think, flexible in some ways, because no one's ever going to be perfect to your standards. But we both really knew what we valued.
Yeah,
And I
and
think
I
that's what
think
was important.
and on top of that is we both what we valued, but we both valued a lot of the same stuff. Like I don't think there's really except maybe like one thing that we weren't exactly aligned with. Um,
I don't even remember what that is.
I mean, it's probably more like my consciousness over finance and budgeting, and
Oh, yeah.
more like me being like, um,
You have such a provider's mindset, like that
yeah.
traditional provider of a male mindset. And my
So,
relationship with money is just very different. So,
so that's,
that's definitely an area we've had to continue to work on
mm-hmm.
throughout our relationship.
But besides that, I would say everything else aligned. Like you wanted kids, I wanted kids. We
Mm-hmm.
both wanted the same number of kids, which is two.
Yeah.
Um,
And we both knew
Political
that,
views
yeah,
were
exactly
basically in line. I know you,
what family meant to
yeah.
us, like outside of just having kids.
Mm-hmm.
I had a very different upbringing compared to Patrick. His was kind of for the most part, the ideal family situation where both your parents are married, your grandparents are married. That doesn't go without saying, everyone has their problems, but
Yeah.
mine was like more when you think of like broken family. Both my parents were divorced.
Mm-hmm.
We just had, we were not very well off. So for me, it was just a very different upbringing. And for Patrick, he had a more stable
Yeah.
living environment, and he had really great parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles surrounding him. And
I
for
would say
me,
more the traditional family
yeah,
value slash like I guess if you'd say like the classic, when everybody's like, oh, I want a white picket fence, even though we didn't have a white picket fence, kind
yeah,
of
right.
family.
And for me, that was something I longed for my entire life. So it was really wonderful to know I was potentially going to date someone and maybe even potentially marry someone that had a really strong family connection.
Yeah,
And
because
I,
that was
and
one of
I,
my important.
yeah,
When we were first talking, I was like, oh, my family is very important to me. Like my sister is one of my best friends.
Yeah.
And I was like, just letting you know if you're gonna date me, not saying that my family comes along with dating me, but a sense of, hey, they're gonna want to do like family dinners, they're gonna want to do like family events, they're gonna want to do family vacations. So I was like, further down the line, just be not like expected, but just to know that, you know, a year or two down the line, they might want to go on a cruise and they're gonna invite us. So that's like a thing that
Yeah.
we would tend to do.
And those are all things I want. They're wonderful. And I want to preface that I do have a good relationship with my
Mm-hmm.
family. It's not that I don't, it's just different. We're very independent in my family versus in Patrick's side of things. Like everyone's very close with each other and they stay in close contact. And it's a kind of a blessing and a curse in some
Mm-hmm.
ways. And that's definitely also been a thing in the relationship because I'm so independent. We've had to learn how to make sure that I get my space because that's just who I am as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that Patrick needs as much space as I do. But with time, I think you've definitely really come around to the idea because he gets way more time with his friends and things he wants to do when I want to go do something for myself. So I think that that's worked out really great. I get the family, but I still can maintain who I am as a person.
Yeah, because I would say even we both like our own alone time. Like, yes, we do a lot of things together, like this in per se, and when we get talking about our movies and other subjects on this channel, we do like to do a lot of things together. But we also like to spend at least, you know, if we're like 5 days
Yeah,
together, we're gonna want a day like where it's like, okay, give me a few hours, and I'm gonna go do my thing, and you're gonna go do your thing.
right.
And to me too, it's like I don't necessarily have to go somewhere else. Like I'll do my own thing in the same room as you sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Which
not always like we have one of us has to be
yeah.
out of the house. It could just be I'm downstairs, he's upstairs, or vice versa.
I'm
It
even
could
saying
be
like
even in the same
yeah.
room and I'm, reading a book and he's playing a game and we're just like not even talking, which I think that's fairly normal for a lot of couples.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to say that's like some
Yeah,
crazy thing.
revolutionary
Yeah.
thought, but yeah, I was like
Yeah.
sometimes we're in
That's a
the
good way.
same room reading different books.
Yeah. We just have, I think, a really good sense
Balance.
of balance for sure. There's less codependency, I think, in this relationship than I've had in any relationship. And I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of that comes from the trust factor.
Yeah.
There's nothing, I just don't think I could ever not trust Patrick at this point. Like I just don't worry at all. And I feel like some people take that as a negative, like, oh, you
Yeah.
don't think I can pull? And it's like, it's not what I'm saying. What I'm
Oh,
saying
I
is
didn't take it like that at all.
I know you don't. That's what's so
Yeah.
funny to me is like, I think in the past I've heard that before and
Mm.
it's an interesting thing for me because I'm like, that's a compliment. I trust you so much. I know that you can pull, but it doesn't matter because you're not going to act on it. I know I can trust that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, I'm pretty happy with it because I can have my space without having to worry. And I think
Mm-hmm.
usually codependency is born out of that anxiety of losing someone. So you
Yeah.
just like attach yourself to them as hard as you can.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm really grateful we have that in our relationship. So because we knew we were dating to get married and we knew we wanted to have kids and our values aligned, we had sort of a soft timeline for getting married. We're both in our mid
Mm-hmm.
30s. We knew that having kids had a timeline on it ultimately.
Yeah.
So we gave ourselves, a tentative date or a tentative idea of a date that we wanted to get engaged and wanted to get married by so that we could, do more of the traditional route and have kids afterwards. It was kind of important to me to do that as I didn't have a traditional upbringing. And Patrick,
Yeah. That
because he
was.
did and it worked well for him and his family, he wanted that.
Mm-hmm.
So we knew we would have kind of goals in our relationship, the moving in goal, how do we live together, how do we deal with conflict? Because in the beginning, as much as your values might align, you're still going to have fights no matter what. So we
Yeah.
wanted to see how each other dealt with conflict.
Mm-hmm.
We had to see what we would do when we disagreed on finances and how we would manage those things. just, you integrate with each other's families. How's that going to go? So all these goals were kind of in our mind.
Yeah,
And
and I think it just kind of came naturally where roughly about 5, 6 months into dating, you decided we decided that you would move in,
yeah,
and I'll even say like throughout even like the first like in like the first 3 months, it was like it was like either you were here for a weekend or I was at your place for a weekend,
yeah, we spent a
and
lot of
then
time together in the beginning for
yeah,
sure, which
and
what couple doesn't?
yeah, and then after that it just was working out so well, and I was like, well, you're it's like, oh, you're here all the time. Let's move in a few things. So like you would leave like some outfits over here, and then like at like the 5, 6 month point, it was just like,
Mm-hmm.
well, just pack all your bags and just move in.
Yeah. And I also had the opportunity to move in because my current roommate at the time had a potential option of someone else to move in, and it was
Mm-hmm.
a good deal for them and it was good for us. So the
Yeah.
timing just kind of worked out really well too.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt very natural.
Yeah.
So we moved in together, and then after that, we were kind of off to the races, I feel like.
Yeah, I agree. Like it just was so natural and easy, and we like transitioned to like aspects of like, okay, what am I gonna take care of in the house? What are you gonna take care of in the house? And then we decided to get dogs, and then that became,
Yeah.
well, uh, when are we gonna go on walks? Like, what are we gonna do? Like feeding times. Like I feed them in the morning, you feed them in the afternoon normally.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
We learned how to be a team.
yes, very good point. We did learn to be a team.
And what was even more exciting than anything to me in this entire process of our relationship is the fact that we make such a good team.
Mm-hmm.
I think obviously we have our tensions, things happen, but for the most part, like when we really both commit to a plan as a team, it works out. It really
Yeah.
works for us. So,
Yeah, I
this.
was gonna preface it saying like I don't want to come off like we've never had a fight and like our life is all rainbows and sunshine. Like very much not true. Like any relationship is gonna be give and take, and
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't even say like arguments because I mean we had our disagreements, but I wouldn't say none of us have really. At least I felt a way. We've always walked away where we've had a resolution. Like
Yeah.
that's what I really like about this relationship. I'm never, even like if we go, hey, can we put this on pause for like 10 minutes so I
Yeah.
can process what's being asked or process what's needs to be done. We'll circle around back to it
Yeah.
and come to a agreeable conclusion where both of us have like made our statement about the issue and found a resolution that fits both of us.
Yeah.
So like that's one thing that I found really strong in our relationship where our communication is normally really well, and we have that.
And when it's not, we usually find our way back to it.
Correct. Yeah, like our communication is normally very well so that we can have these open conversations and not feel like, oh, I got to walk in eggshells before I
Yeah.
ask you a question. Or if for some reason we are starting to feel that way, we have that conversation where it's like, oh, like we
We
need to
never
have a
let it get
conversation about this.
too far.
Mm-hmm.
I and for me, I contribute that to tons of therapy and also just having relationships in the past where they were so
Mm-hmm.
toxic and unhealthy. And that's sort of what's led me to so much therapy in life. I mean, of course, I talked about my childhood, who doesn't? But I think relationships have the biggest, like, especially romantic relationships, have the biggest effect on how you feel about yourself, who you want to be, who you want to become. There's always that old saying of, you are who your friends are type thing. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
similar. It's who you associate yourself with, who you're in
Mm-hmm.
relationships with. When you start associating yourself with people who have healthy minded habits, it's actually kind of easy. Yeah, I
Yeah, it
mean,
kind of like rubs
I
off.
don't want to say that it's
It,
easy doing these things,
yeah.
but it's it just becomes automatic.
Yeah, like I mean, we both have really good core friend groups, and I will say like this about our core friend groups: they definitely make you feel welcome and warmed, and it's a lot easier to fit in, well, not necessarily fit in, but to be more yourself when you're around people that actually care about you and want to respect your values and your wishes.
Yeah. And they're protective too, right? Like
Yeah.
we had little instances of that, and we're grateful,
Hmm.
honestly, no matter the conflict it might have caused.
Yeah.
It just meant they cared,
Yeah,
and
because they're looking out for
that's
the best in you, and they're like,
yeah,
example, like, oh, who's this new person coming in, like, stealing all your time? Like,
exactly. Yeah.
they're reality checking you into a sense of like, hey, like,
Are you sure you really want this?
yeah,
Yeah.
take a little bit of a reality check. Like, are you sure it's not just honeymoon feelings kind of
Yeah.
stages? Like, um, but no, yeah, definitely we had our sit downs and weird talks and with our friends and everything.
Yeah.
Um, but that leads into how the proposal happened.
Yeah, I feel like you should talk about this
Hmm.
because you're the one that had to do it, and then we can kind of conversate.
Did I have to do it? I don't know. I told
I mean,
like
I guess I could have done it,
I,
but we did say we wanted a more traditional
that is
aspect approach to our relationship, and it's worked for us so far.
that is true. I also said I wanted to propose, so
Yeah.
I mean that that probably took that away from you. But
That's so funny. There's nothing less that I wanted than to have to do that myself. So I'm really grateful
mhm.
you did it. Actually, I'm a
So
strong, independent woman, guys, but I need consoling. That's why I'm called Birdie. If I get too
Birdie.
overwhelmed, I it's too much for me. And I think Patrick feels that way too, but he handles stress way better than I do, in my opinion. I'm That's an area I always have to work on and improve. So thank God you did the proposal.
So originally I wanted to do something different. So like we said, we're in the greater Florida area, so we live pretty decently close to the Orlando area. Originally, Birdie is a big Harry Potter fan, and during Christmas time, which we both really love
Ah,
Christmas as
can you
well,
see
they
it?
decorate the area for the holidays and have like a special holiday show.
Hmm.
So originally I was going to take her for the holidays and propose after their fireworks show. Um, I had a friend scope it out for me. They said it got busy, but there is a area like around the corner we could have dipped out because coming from her friend group, because I didn't really ask this question, which guys, you should probably ask this question. She didn't want it to happen in front of a bunch of people.
Yeah.
And to be honest, like I really didn't want it in front of a bunch of people either, but like that thought didn't really cross my mind too much. But one of her best friends was like, "Hey, she's a little worried about it being in front of a group." So I kind of ex-nayed that. Plus, unforeseen stuff happened around Christmas time that didn't allow us to go to Universal.
Yeah.
So then, about 2 or 3 months later, um, a neighbor actually spent their anniversary at Universal and showed us a thing called Shutter Button, which they do like the moving pictures for Harry Potter. So when I looked up that, I looked up if anybody ever proposed during it, and you know, behold, a lot of people actually do propose during that section. So I had my friend again scope it out. They said, yes, you can do a proposal. Just get there like 30 minutes before your appointment. They'll explain it to you, of course, without Birdie being there.
Yeah.
So they'll explain it to you. They'll tell you what scene they're going to do the proposal, and then it's all caught on like a film. So during that comes the day I have the rings and I'm nervous about getting them into Universal because you have to go through a metal detector. So thankfully, a group of my friends went up early and they brought in the ring for me. And a group of friends were going to meet us later. So we go in and we're starting. And unfortunately, for a shutter button, you can't make the reservation until you're in the park. So I was nervous about that, but my friends went in beforehand, and I thought like our reservation was gonna be like 10 o'clock. Well, it ended up being like 1. So my original plan was go straight into the Shutter Button
You
Harry
wanted
Potter
to get it
world,
over
get it
with.
over with, get the ring out of my
The
pocket on her finger
nerves.
because no one wanted to carry it throughout the whole park,
I
and
think they were afraid of losing it or something
oh they
happening to
were
it. Yeah.
because I gave the ring to a friend about a week before we did this, and they told me afterwards like that was the most anxious week I've had in my life was keeping the ring just in their house, and I was like, I know, but nothing should happen in your house. But they're like, we're just worried if we ever lost it or something happened. And I was like, I understand.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I totally understand that
mm-hmm.
that feeling because you don't want to ruin anyone's
Uh,
big moment
yeah.
because something happened,
Mm-hmm.
accidentally because of
Yeah.
it.
And then the other big thing is we didn't want to go on any like roller coaster because you have to put your bags in a locker for like the big rides. So I get in there. I don't know it. Like the plan got pushed down to 1. I'm thinking like 10 o'clock. We're going in. We're going out. So I'm corralling everybody to the Harry Potter area, and my friend whispers in my ear, "Hey, we can't do it till 1." So now I'm like, oh snap! Now we got to pivot. So I start turning us around because they just opened a new ride, the Minion. I think it's like Minions Mayhem. Um,
Yeah, I don't remember the name of it
yeah,
actually.
I'm pretty sure it's Minions Mayhem. It's the one where you get a little like gun and you like
Shoot.
shoot around and help the minions like
Yeah.
capture like stuff for Gru.
Very mild ride.
So I was like, okay. I asked my friend, I was like, do you have to put your bags away for that? Because normally, like, those kind of rides, if they don't, like, loop or anything, you can hold your bag. And they were like, yes, we can keep our bags. So what Erica also didn't know is I had other friends meeting us later on because I was planning a dinner for her mom and her friends to meet us at because unfortunately they couldn't get into the park with us that day. So as we were turning around, I see my other group of friends that were supposed to meet us.
I did not. Just to preface, like I did not see them, but I think
hmm
Patrick, you were terrified.
Yeah, one of my friends is extremely tall, and
He
like I
is.
saw him right off the bat, and I was like, I turned to my other friends like, we need to turn, and they were like talking about food and stuff, and I like pivot like Erica like nudged her a little bit, like gently pivot her and be like, oh, did you want to go get food? Like kind of like pivoting, knowing that we weren't gonna get food, but like just trying to change the subject at all. And then the friend saw us as well, so they like ran down a side
I
street.
had no clue any of this happened. I am so oblivious. Like
Mm.
from my viewpoint on this day, by
Yeah,
the
I like that because
way,
I was
yeah,
worried you were gonna catch on right away because you're like. So to preface, I have a friend who works at Universal,
yeah,
and I prefaced that we were going because they got us in. So she
yeah.
just
I
thought
was
our
under the
friend was getting us
impression
in.
his friend who works at Universal got guest passes, and
Mm-hmm.
we were getting to go for free, which was apparently not the case. And my first instinct when I saw the ticket when we picked it up from the booth, and I saw that he had to enter his credit card to pick it up, and it said on there like no access to the second park, and I was like, that's weird. And I don't know, I just
Yeah.
remember thinking like it was kind of strange, but
I
I
had a
just did not question it.
so I didn't have to put in my credit card. All I had to put in was the authorization code, and
Or
I
maybe that was it.
yeah,
I
and I
think
played it off like, oh
she
yeah,
sent
this
that
is
to you.
normal. She just gives you like they give you the code, and then you go up to the kiosk and you just punch in the code and it prints off the comp tickets.
Yeah, I was so gullible. I was just like, okay, cool, whatever. To be fair, my thought process on that day was I don't have to do jack squat in planning. I'm such a
Mm-hmm.
big planner. I'm very type A, very organized type person, and I'm not going to lie, there's a level of control freak in me. So, when I don't have to plan anything and this entire day was like essentially given to me as a planned day,
Yeah.
I just I just didn't question it. I was like, "Oh, that's so nice that
Mm-hmm.
his friend is doing this for us and we'll just eat in the park and then we'll be home by a certain time to be with our dogs and we can relax." And my brain was just like so grateful that it became oblivious and naive, and I just didn't have a clue. I had no clue.
Mm-hmm.
I should have known because I knew that we were probably going to get engaged fairly soon from when this happened. But no, my brain just didn't go there.
So then, after we did a few rides, it was getting to the time where I needed to check in with the Shutter Button to have them tell me what I needed to do for the proposal. So my original plan was like early on in our relationship, we talked about like butterbeers, and Erica never really went to Universal besides like one other time, two other times,
Um, 3 times
three
prior.
times. Okay.
Yeah,
So then I was like, oh, okay, like so you've had a butterbeer, and she was like, yeah, and she was like, yeah, it was pretty good, and
that was the end of that
that
conversation
was
at the
basically
time.
end of the conversation.
Yeah.
And then So my plan was, okay, we're gonna go in. The Butterbeer line's normally pretty long in the parks, and I'll have you wait in line. Say I have to use the bathroom, like talk to the shutter button people, and then bring her in after they get the Butterbeers. Well, I should have known. Like 2 or 3 months we were talking, and Erica was like eating like some sweets, and she's like, I just can't do like super sweet things anymore.
Yeah.
And Butterbeers are very sweet
Oh, they're
nowadays.
so sweet.
So we go in, and I was like, okay, like you guys go get Butterbeers, and Erica's like, I don't like Butterbeer, and I was like, when did this
The
occur?
the panic between him and his two friends that were in the park with us at the
Mm-hmm.
time, who we were told, we're supposed to be there. This was a planned
Yes,
thing,
planned.
and it felt like they were supposed to be there. And there was actually supposed to be another person there. One of them has a husband who's in his groomsman, actually,
Mm-hmm.
and they weren't able to come because he had a migraine. Another thing I should have just caught on to, but
Yeah.
I just took it at face value because I get migraines. It was a
Mm-hmm.
really solid way of
Yeah.
dealing with that. But apparently all of this made all of them very anxious. Like the
Mm-hmm.
fact that
We.
the husband couldn't get in, the fact
Yeah.
that they saw the other friends and didn't know if I saw them, the
Yeah, I was
fact
on
because
high
they weren't going
alert.
to ask me, obviously, because that would have given it away.
Uh
So they
huh.
had no idea if I saw them unless I brought it up. And then I'm telling them I don't want butterbeer, so I'm just causing
Mm-hmm.
a frenzy, in all of their minds. And I'm over here
Yeah.
like, la di da, la da 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 da. I'm in
and
Universal. Look, it's Harry Potter World. Woo woo. Yeah.
and it's like besides that, it's going like really smoothly. So I was like prefacing before we went in. I was like, well, I have to use the restroom, and so when she said that, I was like, okay, well, I still have to use the restroom. And then my one friend's like, well, let's just go in a few shops while we wait for them. So
Yeah.
she pulled Erica, a birdie,
The true
into.
MVP of the night.
Yep, yep. Pulled you into a shop, and me and my other friend went to the bathroom to hand me the ring because they brought it in. So then after we did that, and I went to the shutter button, and they described how they would do the proposal, we called our other friend to bring Birdie up to us to go into shutter button. And their reason for not joining us was that they've done it before, and it's a really fun experience, and they just want it to be us. So, and their
Yeah.
other excuse was they both like butterbeer, and they actually both got butterbeer while we were all doing it.
Yeah, they actually really wanted it. I guess I really threw a wrench into that plan for everyone.
So as we were doing the moving pictures, I was like, Erica was like, noticed I was really shaking because I was. That's the point I got really nervous. So throughout this whole time, I wasn't like,
Yeah.
I was nervous, but not to the point where like I was starting to shake because I knew it was coming up. So then I was like, man, she's gonna have to like. She knows now because like
Why
this is
would you
not a
be so
typical
nervous?
thing, and I'm like, she was like, well, like, do we have to pay for this? Like, and I'm like, oh no, it's free to do, and then you pay for it at the end if you want the video. And
I bought it.
I already prepaid everything before we went in, so I was like, yeah,
Well, because they didn't ask us for any money either. So in
no,
my mind, like, because I wasn't thinking about the proposal,
mm-hmm,
I didn't even think about that being a proposal thing. Like,
yeah,
it just didn't, I didn't really even know what it was.
yeah, that's
That was
what
the
my
other
goal
thing,
was
is
to.
I don't remember our neighbors telling us about it.
Mm-hmm,
And I know they did, but I just it did not register. Like I
yeah,
said, I was in La La Land. I was
mm-hmm.
1000% just ready to be along for the ride.
And I will say they did tell us like wait, like it was probably like a few months before we went on the like we went to Universal. They went like 2 or 3
Yeah, it was not
months,
top
so
of
it was like
mind.
not on top of mind.
Yeah.
So we do the whole video and the photos, and we get the proposal done, and everything goes without a hitch. And then what Erica also didn't know is I planned for her friends and her mom to meet us for dinner. So straight from the proposal, we were like, oh, we're gonna go grab food, and we already had a reservation at one of the restaurants. So then we go to the restaurant, and we're sitting outside, and I wanted it to be a surprise that her friends were gonna show up and her mom. So they text me when they were walking up, and we're like standing right in front of the doors. So again, I had to like turn Erica away from the building and sneak. Actually, I had one of my friends grab them, and they walked a different way to the restaurant, and they snuck in. So when
Yeah.
Erica went in to sit down, they were already sitting down waiting for her.
Yeah. So something else that so for me, this my experience in this was that we were in Shutter Buttons, and I was really concerned about the money aspect of it because I knew that it was probably going to be expensive. So he convinced me that we would only choose to pay until afterwards. I was like, fine, we'll just have some fun. So we
Mm-hmm.
go in there, and this guy is directing us through the scenes for the Shutter Buttons. And if you guys want to see our proposal video, we will link it in the description below. So feel free to go check that out. It's a really cool experience, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe you can use this as an idea for
Yeah.
you and your
Yeah.
potential future wife or
I'll say any
something.
Harry Potter lovers, it's a fun
Or
time.
just even, yeah, even if you just want to do it, like it's really fun. But moving on from that, we're getting all these directions and stuff, and while the directing is happening, there's different scenes we're playing out. And at this point, we're 4 or 5 scenes deep,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just having fun listening to the director, kind of feeling goofy because I don't feel like I'm an actress, so it's kind of funny that the video turned out the way it did because it did look pretty good. So he was
Yeah,
clearly a good director in my mind.
he was.
But we get to the scene where Patrick's supposed to propose. Of course, I don't know this, but he knows this.
Mm-hmm.
And he is told to get down like towards the ground, and I'm told to look left, and
Yeah.
he's to my right. And I look left, and he gets down on one knee. I guess I didn't know it at the time. And um, then the director tells me to turn around, and I turn, and there Patrick is on one knee, shaking. Poor guy is just nervous, even though he knew I was gonna say yes, but he's just shaking, nervous, and asked me to marry him, and I said, yeah. I think my brain was just
Mm-hmm.
on like
Yeah.
slow mode. It wasn't
So
registering what was actually happening.
you didn't hear me say your name the first time.
Yeah,
So like
I think
as
I
you were
thought it was a part
turning,
of the bit, like a
yeah.
part of the directing thing.
Mm-hmm. So like I said your name, and then you're like you didn't even hear me. You're like, what am I supposed to act? And then I was like, no, Erica. And then you looked down, and then you saw the ring, and you're like, oh, now I know what's going on.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
A part of me thought it was like a part of the bit,
mm-hmm.
and so I got really confused. And I think I asked you like a couple of times, like, "Oh, you're serious? Like this is
Yeah,
it?
this is
This
it.
is the
Yeah.
engagement?" And you're like, "Yeah, this is your ring." And I'm
Well,
like, "Oh yeah, duh."
so the preference too, like I always told her I was gonna propose before, like the day before the wedding,
Yeah,
like
just
you're
as
not
a
gonna know
joke.
as a joke. And then the other
Mm.
bit I always did was I would fake tie my shoe and pretend like I was gonna propose. So like just to keep her like kind
On her
of,
toes.
yeah, a little guessing, like not knowing exactly when I was gonna do it. So yeah, she was like, "Is this another bit?" And I'm like, "No, this one's the real one."
Yeah. Also, I really my last indicator to know that this was happening should have been right before we went into Shutter Buttons,
Mm-hmm.
because he was shaking so bad. But my brain instantly goes into wifey mode, and I know that Honeybee over here gets a little hypoglycemic when he doesn't eat or drink enough water, which can make you really shaky. And I did think we hadn't eaten in a while, and I was actually complaining that I needed to eat because I need to take a pill that I have to take with food like during the middle of the day,
Mm-hmm.
and all these different things. And everyone was just like, "Oh, just wait a little bit longer,"
Yeah,
because they had this
we had the
freaking
dinner.
like dinner. It's like it was a little bit between lunch and dinner. It wasn't
Yeah, it's like a
quite that
lunner.
late, but we hadn't had a lunch either. So I was just getting a little hungry. And I thought that maybe that's what was going on with him
Mm-hmm.
and why he was so shaky. But he was like, I'm fine, let's do this. I really want to do this. And then I worried about the money, and then he convinced me that. So we had to get through all these little mini obstacles. I was really willing though. I never really
Yeah,
put up
no,
a
you
fight.
never put up a fight. It was more
Yeah.
like,
I was just questioning, I
yeah,
think,
like our
making sure
normal conversation. Like
we weren't
you're
being
voicing,
stupid and like, spending money we didn't need to spend at the time.
yeah, you're
Um,
voicing a concern because we were on the verge of like starting to plan the wedding at that time. Like right before the proposal, we were like mocking up
yeah,
budget costs and everything for the wedding.
we had
So,
discussed multiple times a date that we had in mind,
mm-hmm.
and we had discussed places that we might want to go to. So
Yeah.
there was some pre-planning in this, so I knew
Mm-hmm.
it was coming. I just, for whatever reason, I was so blind to it, and I'm grateful. I'm glad I didn't know what was coming. I think I would have been way more nervous. I was in such shock that there was no nerves. I was, if anything, afterwards, I was in shock for a while. I was kind of
Mm-hmm.
like mute a little bit. I think people might have thought I wasn't excited, even though I was, because I was just like, what the
Yeah.
hell just happened?
Mm-hmm.
Also, when we left Shutter Buttons,
Yeah.
that's when I found out that his friends were there, including the person that's really tall.
Mm-hmm.
So that actually shocked me the most
Yeah, that everybody
because
came.
I was like, wait, when did you guys get here?
Yeah.
And they're like, we came here for this. I'm like, what?
They'd be
And
like, we've
then
been here
they
for
were like, yeah, well,
hours.
you actually thought you saw us earlier. And I was like,
Uh-huh.
definitely did not see you at all.
And then I sprang another surprise. We stayed at the night at one of the hotels, but
And I was
since
stressed because of my dogs. And we left them in our house with his aunt. And I didn't feel like my house was clean enough, guys. That's the control freak in me. I was like, oh my gosh, if I would have known she was going to stay the
yeah,
night, I
you would
would
have
have
cleaned.
like done more cleaning, or I would have, changed the bed sheets on the X bed or whatever, because we have a couple of rooms in our house where she could have stayed. And I just, in my brain, I was like a little panicked about that. But it was really nice to stay overnight,
Mm-hmm.
except for the one thing Patrick forgot.
Yeah, I was gonna pack a go bag, but then we were rushing out the door, and I was like, in my head, thought
The
I need
go
to get
bag was not ready to go.
yes, and in my head, I was like, I need to get there early because we're doing it early. So if I can't show up late. So I was packing a to go bag, and I was trying to sneak it in the car, but there was no way for me to sneak it in the car. So it ended up just not making it on the trip, and we had to
We went to Dollar Tree and Walmart, I think, and
yeah,
got some clothes
some
and some
jammies and
toiletries and
yeah.
some snacks. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, it was a really great time. And then, after the proposal, after seeing your friends were there, we went and had like a couple drinks, and then we went to the lunch thing, and we waited outside for the reservation to start. At least that was what I was told.
Yeah.
And I walk in, and that's when I saw my mom and my two best friends that were there.
Mhm.
And then I was surprised once again. I felt like I became a mute that night because I was just like, I was almost overwhelmed, and
Yeah.
not in like a bad way. Like, it was not overwhelming in a bad way. I don't want people to think that, but I think I was trying to process a lot. So
Mhm. Yeah, it was a lot of like process overload, like a
yeah,
lot of emotion.
yeah, definitely. I think I was trying to keep myself from getting too
Yeah.
emotional. So I just kind of, I don't want to say I disassociated, but I definitely like turned on the calm, cool, and controlled aspect to my
Mhm.
personality, which is something I use in my work life a lot. So I think I kind of turned that piece of my brain on. But it was a really great time, and I had so much fun. And then later that night, the whole reason why we were told to go this weekend, like, we got guest
Mhm.
passes, and that night they were having All Time Low play, and we both like All Time Low. So
Mhm.
we went, and we did end up still going to see All Time Low that
Yeah, we
night,
went to a concert.
and it was a really great time.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's how we got
Yeah.
engaged. It's pretty exciting. And then, beyond getting engaged, the first thing you're supposed to do is get your engagement photos so that you have those ready to go to make the engagement announcement, and then
Mhm.
you move into the wedding planning. So we thought it'd be
Save the
really,
dates,
yeah,
invitations, all that jazz.
yeah. We thought it would be a really great idea to link our engagement photo sneak peek session into our description below. So if you guys are really interested in seeing our engagement photos, go and click that link below. You can also see who took the photos. We also had a really great team of people, of your friends, that were helping plan this entire thing.
Yes. So, actually, the person who took the engagement photos was one of my friends, and we can link her down below if you like the photos and
They're
the
awesome, so you're going to like them.
video. We can link her site if you're in the greater Florida area. She normally travels between, I would say, like Orlando and Tampa, but she'll work with
Really, anywhere
anyone.
Central
Hmm.
Florida, I think she would
Yeah,
work.
and I think she's done a few out of state, but I don't know if they're currently doing that. And I'm
Yeah.
sure you'd have to, if you really like her, that would have to be a conversation with her as well. And then another one of my friends is a travel planner, and she helped a lot with the accommodations when we were in Orlando. So I can link that down below too if you're ever interested in traveling to the greater Orlando area, she'll help you get good hotels, even tickets into any of the parks.
I think she can also do international travel planning. So
Yeah, she has done a
if
few
you need
international as well.
someone with help for that, feel free to check her out. We'll definitely link her below also. And for the engagement photos, I thought it would be really fun just before we wrap up here to talk about, where we took our engagement photos at, what time of day it was, how long it took us, our experience, and then even though we actually didn't have to pay for our engagement photos, like we said, our friend Patrick's one of Patrick's dear friends since high
Yeah.
school, gave us this
As
as
a
a
wedding
like
gift.
a wedding gift, so that's why we didn't. But we'll talk a little bit about like the average cost, the cost of her in particular
Mm-hmm.
for engagement photos, just to give you guys an idea. So where we went was two different places. We took our more formal photos that you'll see in the sneak peek video were in Celebration, which is a previously Disney owned town, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
I
you
believe
might
they
know a little more
sold it
about
out.
this.
Yeah, Celebration used to be previously owned by Disney, and I think they sold it a few years back. But it's just a really nice area. Um, Technically, they don't like you taking photos there, so you didn't hear from
Be
us.
cautious.
Yeah, you didn't hear from us, but yes, that area is very beautiful.
It's got a very southern charm aspect to it, kind of like a Savannah feel or a
Mm-hmm.
Charleston feel. I thought it was gorgeous and it really did make for beautiful photos for us. So
Mm-hmm.
we are definitely grateful. And shortly before our engagement photo session, we knew where we wanted to have our venue. So we booked that and we
Mm-hmm.
did our more casual, not like super casual, but more casual look
Yeah, like the
at
dress down.
at our venue.
Yeah.
We had quite a few outfit options. They usually
Mm-hmm.
recommend at least two,
Too. Yeah.
but we had three in the photos, and I think we brought five overall, right?
Yeah, and the really nice thing, they had like a whole PDF pamphlet of like, hey, this is what, the engagement photo session's going to be like. This is what we recommend, and they send that to all their clients. So it was just a nice thing to think about because we didn't really think about those things. Like I was like, oh, like one outfit and like we're done, and it's like, oh no, you probably should have like two maybe three at most.
And inside of that guide was also an idea of lighting, like the
Mm-hmm.
best natural light. So the earlier in the morning or later towards,
Sunset.
sunset is the best times. We actually did not go during those times. We were a little bit further into late morning, early afternoon type thing. I do want to say that most engagement sessions are an hour long. Ours just
Mm-hmm.
lasted quite a bit longer because we're fortunate to have such a wonderful friend who did this for us. But I would just make sure you understand that usually you get about an hour,
Yeah.
and it might vary from photographer, but in our
Mm-hmm.
case it's an hour long session, and you essentially want to make sure you pick a time period and a location that really work for you. Most people also do a single location, it's not two
Mm-hmm.
locations, so just be mindful of that as well. And then as for cost, I believe the cost usually is around 350 or higher for
Yeah, starting
engagement
350
photos.
plus. Yeah.
And if you want to add additional hours, there'll be additional cost. If you
Mm-hmm.
have two different film or
Two different
yeah,
locations
two
for
different
photos, just additional
locations,
cost.
and if you have those two locations, you might have to be mindful of paying the cost for like their travel
Mm-hmm.
depending on where it's at. So just upfront, make sure you guys are aware if you are planning a wedding and having to get engagement photos. I'm sure a lot of you know this information already,
Yeah.
but I actually didn't. So it was really helpful having
Mm-hmm.
that guide. And then just the experience of it was really great. If you
Mm-hmm.
have a good photographer who knows what they're doing, you just
Yeah.
get to have fun.
And I will say, like, a lot of time too with like wedding packages. Some photographers will throw in the engagement session in the wedding package, or sometimes they do like a wedding package and then like an anniversary session. So it just kind of depends on
Yeah.
what kind of package and budget you have for the wedding. So like that's just one thing you got to be mindful of when you're budgeting for photography is it can be more expensive than what you think. Like a lot of things we've
Yeah,
have thought the budget for something, it ends up being
way
a
more.
little more than what you think. So like
Yeah.
an average, I'll say an average 6 hour session for a wedding with just the photographer for a wedding
A
was like
single, yeah, single photographer.
35 to like $4,500, and then it just went up from there depending on second shooter, additional hours if you want a videographer.
Videography,
So,
photo booths.
and I'm saying that's like the average. Is not. There are people that will charge you less, will charge you more. It just kind of depends. But the average we were seeing was like 35 to 4,500 for just like a 6 hour session.
Also, just because someone has the highest prices or is the most well known does not mean you can't find someone who's just as great for a more affordable price.
Mm-hmm.
With photography, I think this was the biggest lesson.
Yeah.
We got quite a few photography names, and I was shocked by like the $7,500 price tag for an 8 hour session with one,
Mm-hmm.
or sorry, 8 hour wedding day with one
Yeah.
photographer and very limited like extras. Like most of the time they give you like an album, and they give you so many sneak peek photos in a
Mm-hmm.
time
An
frame, and that's
engagement.
all a part of the package.
Yeah.
Ultimately what you're paying for is the hours. So the
Mm-hmm.
more hours you need, the more money it's going to cost. And we really wanted 10 hours. I think we ended up going with 8 hours though. But we
Yeah.
wanted 10 hours, and those were around like $7,500, and
They were a lot.
I was absolutely flabbergasted and realized that there were quite a few other photographers out there that may not be as well known but are just as talented, who
Yeah,
have more affordable prices. And I feel like,
we found something like that. It
yeah,
was a more affordable price for about the 8 hours, and I think a big deal that we wanted in our photographer. I know we're kind of going a little bit of tangent for like wedding photography and not just
yeah,
engagement.
we'll get more into it later, but
Mm-hmm.
feel free to finish that thought.
So we really wanted the look of the photos and not just necessarily like
The
who's the
aesthetic was
aesthetic.
really
Yeah.
important. Yeah.
So we went with someone who had like a more moody aesthetic than like the traditional bright and like bright light,
Yeah.
like classic.
Yeah.
So I just, like anybody's gonna say, you have to do your research, but we can deep dive into that on a later video where we talk more in depth about our event, our
When we talk a little
vendors.
bit
Yeah.
more about our vendors and the
Mm-hmm.
choices we've had to make, and choices you don't realize you have to make when it comes to wedding planning. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think we all know food, venue, photographer, entertainment,
Yeah.
those things, and like dress, rings,
Mm-hmm.
bridesmaids dresses. Those are like the standard things, but there are so many more things you have to think
Yeah.
about. And in future videos, we will be doing deep dives into our vendors and all the decisions we've had to make in our wedding planning process. So we're looking forward to doing that with you guys.
Yes, and if you like this wedding vlog and want to see what is buzzing next in our wedding journey, please hit the subscribe and the notification bell.
And if you have any questions or comments on our journey, or simply just want more in-depth videos on a specific wedding planning topic, please leave us a comment below. And if you like this video, give us a thumbs up.
As always, we are so grateful to have you here with us.
Keep buzzing, and see you in the next video.
Bye.
Bye.